Hello, it's me, Brielle. I have tried to film this video so many times and it's just not working. So I tried doing a script, tried doing without a script. I'm gonna hopefully do it this time. I'm doing no script this time so that I don't feel like I'm tied down to something because I'm dissociating a little bit. So what we're gonna talk about is alters not realizing they're alters and why we didn't realize we were a system. So River had originally wanted to do this video, but he thought about how, because this is this perspective of an alter, he thought it'd be good to get one of us to do it. And also because I haven't fronted in so long, he wanted to invite me out. So a positive trigger of mine, he did. And yeah, I'm out. So I'm gonna start talking about the subject of the video. So we had watched a video from the Alexandrite system. I think it was Claudia, so thank you, Claudia. And they spoke about how alters go through the process of realizing they're an alter. And that was so validating for us because we struggled with the exact same thing. Not all of us, but it kind of like what I had gone through and what Derek had gone through. We just, yeah, so it was very validating because it was one of the things that our denial and wherever this denial was coming from would weaponize against River and all of us for why we were faking, because there was like this idea that alters had known since they were young children that they were alters. And it's like, well, we don't have that. We also don't remember like 90% of our lives. So we thought because we didn't have that like distinct, oh, like I remember being 6 years old and walking around and telling people to call me Brielle, because like that wasn't our reality. We often use that to invalidate our existence. So yeah, I'm going to talk about what I kind of went through as I was realizing I was an alter. From what I do remember, which isn't much, if I'm being honest. So one of the things that I had gone through was I remember talking to our best friend, and just for a while, River had been wondering why femininity has been coming back into his life, because River thinks he's a trans man, and he couldn't quite put his finger on it. And it's hard to explain. It's so hard to explain unless you like live it. But looking back, there's times when it was me, but I didn't realize it was me at the time, because like we normalize our existence so much. Like something could be greatly wrong with us and we won't realize it is. We will just think that's life. So like I said, I started bleeding into River's life, or at least his awareness, which is like our awareness, because we all share the same kind of like memory bank. And he was wondering why like femininity was coming up and why he wanted to wear makeup. It was confusing to him. And I remember I was talking to my friend, and it was almost like the same thing with Carl. And during that conversation, I was like, I'm Brielle. I think that's how it went down. I think halfway through a conversation, I was like, yeah, I'm me, like I'm a different person. So I want to speak more about like how you don't realize you're a different person. So I know that a lot of systems have kind of talked about the whole like metaphors and analogies and common phrases in society that kind of normalize the lived reality of being like multiple, like things like arguing with myself in my head, or when I get mad I'm like a totally different person, just like things like that, tropes like that. So I'm not going to really talk about that. I'm going to try to really talk about the experience that we had gone through. And I know that DID and OSDD and like multiplicity in general is such a unique experience. So please don't look at this, and if you don't relate to it, think, oh, then it's not me. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just sharing my experience to hopefully have people relate. That's all I want. I'm not trying to confirm or deny it for anyone else. So Sorry, the dog is just sleeping beside me, and whenever someone sleeps, I'm like, are you dead? So, sorry. So yeah, so I always feel like myself, like my energy, I really just comes down to energy. So if you don't believe in energy, or you don't like pick that up for like some kind of neurodivergent reasons, I'm sorry. It's probably going to be even more confusing, I imagine. But for us, we really like, it's the energy. Like, I have a different energy, River has a different energy. So, and like, yeah, my likes and interests, like makeup and like Taylor Swift, and my elf ears, feeling I'm a fairy, how I like to write and draw. There was like distinct differences about myself. And, but so one of the things, River as a host has BPD, and he has really bad identity crisis, and lack of identity, I should say. So when I would be co-conscious or co-fronting, that like ambivalence, I think is the word for like, not like that like imbalance of what he liked and what I liked, that confusion, he was just thought it was BPD. I thought it was just his BPD. So because we all share the same memory bank, everything River has lived, everything I have lived, we all share in this body and mind. So it was really hard for us to realize that we were different people. It's almost like, what's a good way to explain it? It's almost like, I don't know, it's so hard to explain. And people who do it so eloquently, I really admire. Like, the Alexandrite did it so well. It's just, so let me explain how it went down with Derek. Derek was the most recent, so I can do it for him. Derek is a goofball. He's very childlike, and he has a different like vibe, like different like behaviors, different interests. So like, he often likes making silly sounds and making silly faces and just being a goofball. And River and myself are not like that. So when River would act that way, he would just not question it. He would just think, okay, so I'm acting in a way I don't like, but nobody's around, so it doesn't matter anyways. He never really questioned it. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think you just don't question why you're acting so differently. And it's not acting, because it's not a like intentional choice, but acting is the only way to explain it. It's like behaving differently, I guess is a better word. So yeah, I remember how when Derek realized he was an alter, we were in the shower, and Derek was doing, he loves just, I don't know why, something about being a shower, it's like a positive trigger for him, I think. He was being his usual self, and we like paused for a second, and we're like, this isn't River, this isn't me. That's what River thought. And he stopped, and he's like, who is this? And then Derek was like, oh, it's me, Derek. And that's how quick it was for Derek. But of course it was more slow than that, because during our whole past, when we would behave that way, that's always been Derek. But the snap was quick of realizing, oh, I'm Derek. It was the same thing with Carl. Carl was in the middle of talking to a friend, and then they were talking about multiplicity and DID, and how River has always felt like he had different people inside of him. And then Carl stopped, and he's like, my name's Carl. And I think it was the same thing with me. I remember like femininity was bleeding into River's life. Oh, sorry, I just got a text. Femininity was bleeding into River's life, and it really caused an identity confusion for him. Just like especially with being BP and like the lack of identity, he really didn't understand. I think that's what it comes down to. It's like it's an identity. alternate states of identity, so consciousness, I think. But yeah, River also, he never felt like he had his own personhood either. And now that one of the things that he was excited about is now that we realize we're multiple, he gets to find himself. And I'm already at 10 minutes. I've just been rambling. I'm so sorry. I'll watch this video and see if it's good. Anyways, it's such a hard experience to explain, but you kind of, so how we, and I'll speak to Zendaya and Montreal now because it was a little different with them. For them, we started getting a sense of their energy coming forward. And we started to get ideas of names and personalities. And we had a feeling they were going to front. And eventually they did. And right when they fronted, they knew it was them. They knew they were different. At this point, we already were starting to be open to the idea of being multiple. So when another alter came forward, it wasn't like, what is this? This isn't real. Well, we still struggle with that, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't like a mind-blowing experience. You're like, okay, welcome to the party. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what I'm gonna say now. So if you have BPD and you have lack of identity, or if you just have lack of identity in general, you kind of may understand the diffusion and a sense of self. And because River had BPD, and because that is the experience we all shared, we never really questioned the distinct differences between us. We just thought, oh, we never questioned it. I don't know why we didn't, but we didn't. And I think that's what it is, that River never felt like himself, which is possibly why we might not have amnesia between ourselves, because there was just no, there was, now that we understand that. I don't know what I'm going with that. But yeah, there was just a diffusion of any kind of sense of self at first for River. So when he felt different, he didn't question it. So I think this is a good, maybe River actually should have been the one who filmed this. But yeah, it's just hard. It's you get so familiar. You know what, maybe a good way to explain it? It's, no, I don't think that. I was going to talk about chairs and how, each chair feels different, but it's still a chair. And so each of us feel different. See, that doesn't make sense. I don't know. I'm already at 13 minutes. I'm not going to film this again. I'm so sorry. This is just a mess. I thought I could film this. I can't. It's too complex of a very abstract thing to try to formulate into a cohesive kind of video. So, but I think in some, which I probably should have done this in the beginning, is having multiplicity. There's almost a diffusion in one sense of self. That's what it is, right? There's fragmented parts of you. And before you kind of realize that these are different, at least in our case, that these behavior differences that you exhibit mean that these are different alternate states of consciousness. Before you come to that awareness, which is the whole point of being DID, you don't have that awareness. It makes sense that you may not know from the very beginning that you are an alter. And I think that's what it came down to for us. I think, we didn't have a cohesive sense of self, and we didn't question that because that's all we knew. And then once we kind of got the language and the knowledge of this is an alter, this is what an alter is, we were able to identify, oh, that's me. I'm an alter. I'm not just River who doesn't feel like himself. I don't feel like River. River doesn't feel like me. That is that's what it, for us, that's kind of how we realized. So I hope you liked this video. It was a mess, I know, I'm sorry, but I'll leave it at that, okay? Peace. That's like a river. Peace.